Hi, and welcome back to Still Rolling Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today's guest is Professor James Klingerman. He's the head coach of Indiana Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy and a fourth-degree black belt with more than 3 decades in martial arts. James began training as a teenager, and he's built a foundation across jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts. He earned his black belt under Master Aníbal Braga, and he also holds a brown belt in judo under the late Virgil Bowles. Over the years, he's competed in hundreds of matches across jiu-jitsu, judo, submission grappling, and MMA, building a reputation as both a technician and a relentless competitor. But his story is bigger than competition. In 1999, shortly after major tournament wins at the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Nationals and the America Judo Cup, James was the victim of an unprovoked shooting. He was shot in the head while sitting at a stoplight. The incident changed the trajectory of his life and his career, and just 2 weeks later, sitting on the mat at the grand opening of his academy, he realized something important. While competitive drive was still there, his long-term role would shift to teaching, mentorship, and stewardship of the art. The realization became the foundation of what he's built. He's authored multiple best-selling instructional series, and he continues to influence practitioners nationwide through seminars, curriculum development, and coaching. Beyond credentials, what stands out is his longevity. He's lived through the highs of competition, the trauma of violence, and the responsibility that comes with leading generations of students. He teaches advanced practical jiu-jitsu while cultivating a culture that is disciplined, technical, and welcoming. This conversation is about the long road. It's about resilience and what happens when competition evolves into leadership and what it means to keep showing up on the mat year after year. Please welcome Professor James Klinger and welcome aboard. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Robin Giesler says hi. I told him I was going to be talking to you today. He's my coach.
Well, tell him
Um,
I said hello. Great
yeah,
guy.
yeah. He had nothing but good things to say about you. So I kind of start often on these is, I ask, how'd you get into jujitsu? Like, what was your background growing up? If you were in other martial arts, obviously we know you were. Um, how'd you get started?
Um, so it's always a weird question for me because like I've always wanted to do martial arts. When I was a young kid, like I just wanted to fight all the time. So all I not street fight, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I always wanted to do kung fu or karate or whatever whatever it was. And but I also had terrible social anxiety. I don't think it had a name back then. I'm 46, so we didn't have all those all those labels for everything wrong with everyone. But yeah, I did not function in groups. I would not play sports. I had a hard time being in any kind of like room, like kindergarten even, where there was more than a couple people, and so I just never would do it. And then probably when I was 13, my dad literally just dragged me to a karate school. He said, "Hey, you're doing this. You don't have a choice. You get to pick which one." And so I literally just opened the yellow pages and I picked the one closest to the house and started doing karate there. And it was okay. I did it for about a year, and I didn't care for it. It wasn't my thing necessarily. I liked the combat aspect of it, but I also realized the limitations of karate itself. So uh, did about a year, and then saw Hoist Gracie win the Ultimate Fighting Championship on MTV Sports, and I was like, "That's cool. I'd like to do some kind of grappling, you know." And so I ended up when I was about 15, I enrolled in a judo slash jujitsu academy. It was a Japanese form of jujitsu, which I later found out the coach probably never really did any jujitsu. Um, but yeah, so that just it kind of got me used to being on the mat, used to, not only training but also teaching and stuff. And then yeah, when I was 17, almost 18, I found a guy named Greg Eldred, and he was a blue belt under Hoist and Horion. And he had just a little affiliation in a basement of a like an insurance building, like tiny little basement, like this little tiny
Yeah.
room. And so I drive about an hour plus north and train a couple times a week in that.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that you and I are the exact same age. You look about 20 years younger than me.
I shaved yesterday, so
Okay,
that's
I
what it is.
didn't. So, um, so you saw Hoist Gracie, and that's where I think a lot of people in at least in
Yeah.
our generation kind of figured out that, hey, there's something there. So you were driving an hour, and who were you training under there?
A guy named Greg Eldred. So at the time, he was a two-stripe blue belt. He had originally come from California, started with the Gracies out there, and then he had moved to Ohio. And when they started their like affiliation process, he was one of their first affiliates. And then I believe his job brought him to Indiana. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
and that was 97, like June of
Okay,
97.
so you've been in it longer than, I mean, I think I took my first jujitsu class in like 2004, and that was
Okay,
Japanese jujitsu. It wasn't until probably 2012 ish that I took Brazilian jiu-jitsu for the first time, and I
okay.
learned that, uh, yeah, definitely a much different game. Um, so as we alluded to in um, the introduction, um, you've competed quite a bit. Uh, did you always just decide that you wanted to compete? How'd you decide to become a competitor?
Yeah, I think about that often. Like I said initially, like I always wanted to fight, but oddly enough, like when I was doing the karate, those guys competed all the time, and I never went. When I started judo, I never competed. Um, and then the second I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I started competing. I think I did two tournaments. One was in Northern Indiana, and then the very first Gracie Nationals out in California. Within like the first 4 months of of joining with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Um, but yeah, something about it. I began competing right away, and then back then there weren't a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments anywhere, so I kind of supplemented that with judo tournaments. So I was doing a lot of probably more judo at the time, competition wise, than I was jujitsu, just because of the frequency. So yeah, and then started. Like I said, like I like the fighting aspect of it, so I started doing MMA. I had a couple MMA bouts in '98. I think I had three. Uh, Again, it wasn't it wasn't super popular, right? Like,
Yeah,
um, it was hard to find shows, and this was all pre-internet too. So, like, I don't know how you even found out there was a show. Like, you just
even now it's
you got a little
hard.
flyer somewhere, right? Like, but
Yeah. Yeah, unless you're following as far as like local circuit stuff, unless you're following, a Facebook page or something of the local ones, it's still kind of hard to find them. So I can't even imagine, uh, you know, kind of how underground that must have been. Um,
yeah.
so did you? Okay, I have a lot of people that listen to this, that are early on in their jujitsu journey. A lot of white and blue belts. Um, As far as competing, you hadn't competed in other martial arts, but you jumped right in. Was there trepidation there at all when you were first getting into it, or did you handle it well because you had such a kind of a better background in judo and
Um, y- I think I handled it fairly well. Like, it was just something I wanted to do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So there was never like this. Like dread of doing it. I never showed up and I was like, I don't want to be here. This is so stressful. Like, it was a good stress, and I
Yeah.
recognized that right off the bat. Um, so yeah, I always had fun. I did fairly well early on, yeah, I think I don't think I really developed a lot of competition anxiety until later, like really at black belt. We all have the anxiety when we first get there. We start thinking about it. We're looking around, and then it's like you get the nerves and you start shaking a little bit. But um, yeah, even that, like I think my anxiety got so bad at early black belt that I almost don't have any anymore. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Get a
You
little
can
bit. Sometimes you fight the 300-pound guy and the tournament, get a little shaky legs, but
I've learned I learned a lesson actually, a while back that I don't want to talk or get to know my opponent before I get started. I used to have the opinion, yeah, I'll just go be a nice guy or whatever. And then I went and introduced myself to a guy, and I'm in the ultra heavy division. And
okay.
this guy was massive. And when I shook his hand, like I just felt his like farmer hand, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is gonna be a mess. And and I did okay. I did lose to this guy, but it was just one of those things where it was like, this is going to be tough. Um, I'd rather just not know until you grab a hold.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those things now, like, a lot of these guys, especially in the Midwest, like, I've known them forever, you know, we'll
mhm.
walk out on the mat and it's like, I've known this guy for 20 years now, you know, and
What weight
so
class were you in? Or are you
so generally, no gi, or excuse me, in the gi, I compete lightweight, and then I
okay?
normally do middle, in the no gi.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of guys from back in that period of time. As far as a lot of Ohio guys, obviously, I'm in Columbus, so
Okay.
Robin Giesler and Steve Herdinsky and some of those guys. Which
Yeah,
Herdinsky's out in Colorado now, but
right.
um,
Robin tell you he choked me out in a tournament?
no, he didn't.
What? He didn't tell you
No,
that?
he didn't. He
Oh,
didn't say anything about that. He just had really nice things to say to you. But I was wondering, like, weight classes, because that era, as far as small circles, I was like, I bet you they've come across. I didn't know if it was going to be the same weight class or not. Tell me, tell.
so yeah, at the time, I don't know what weight we were in, probably middle, and he, I'm trying to think of what, I think we fought first round in a gi tournament at purple belt. So this was like, I want to say 2001, maybe 2002, probably
Mhm.
2002, because I got my purple late 2001. Um, and yeah, I got the takedown. I thought, I was like, cool, I feel good about it. He started messing with my collar a little bit. I was like, no big deal. And then I passed his guard. I'm sitting there and I was like, okay, I'm up 5. I feel good. He's choking me a little bit. I was like, I'm in side control. I should be good. I went to turn. I was like, I don't even know what he's got, but it's choking me. I'll just go knee on belly and pry out of it. And I went to go knee on belly and just dunk
Out.
out. Face hit the mat. Robin crawled out from underneath me. So he got me with a baseball bat choke. He tricked me into passing and just
Yeah.
caught it. And then I was like, dude, what just happened? And we went back behind the bleachers. He's like, everyone go away, go away. So
Yeah.
he pulled me back behind the bleachers and showed me what he was setting up and then what he did instead.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
Yeah. As soon as you said you were passing, and I was already picturing the baseball. Um,
yeah.
well, good. I mean, obviously, it's not fun to lose, but it is fun to hear stories about some of those competitions if you know both of the folks.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so, um, when you were gonna open your gym, you were competing. What you were already a black belt?
Oh, I was a blue belt.
You were a blue belt when you were gonna open your academy.
Yeah. So the way this happened was so I started with Greg Elder in 97 and then in 98, 99, I think in 99 I met Scott and Eric Sullivan, and they were purple belts at the time. And so a big group of us that trained with Greg, including Greg, all trained with. We would go down and train with Scott and Eric Sullivan a couple days a week, and their jujitsu was just completely different than anything we had seen. Just way more advanced. Um, and so in 2000, so we were training just in the garage, right?
Mhm.
They happened to move here from Evansville. Scott used to run a gym. He was a world class kickboxer who started doing jujitsu, and we just trained in the garage for, man, probably about a year. And then someone talks Eric into opening IBJJA. Eric was technically the owner. I was assistant. Scott was an assistant, and then we had like 3 other guys who were just kind of assistant fill-ins. So Eric taught the majority of the classes. Me and another guy taught a few here and there. And then so that was in March of 2000. So in August of 2000, I opened my own branch, just in the back of a Taekwondo school.
That's awesome. Um, and nowadays, if blue belts opening an academy doesn't, make sense, first of all, but back in then, there were not schools available. So
Right. Yeah. So like Scott and Eric were the first. Well, they were the second and third purple belts I'd ever met outside of California, and even out there, I'm a handful, right? So there just were not purple belts everywhere back then. So no browns, no, if you were a black
yeah,
belt, your name was either Gracie or Machado, basically.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think Robin actually he said in that era he said you knew who the purple who the purple belts were nationally. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that's impressive. Um, and so as I was reading a little bit, we'll get into the gunshot. Um, do you want to tell that story with just how you want to tell it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just want to go. You just want to go now. Just
Yeah, well, so like
yeah.
I'm kind of thinking like timeline, right? You're opening a
Yeah.
school, but when I was reading
Yep.
it was kind of like that happened all at the same time that you were opening. Is that correct?
Almost. Yeah. Um, so yeah, February 20th of 2000. So literally 26 years ago today. So we just happened to happened to reschedule the podcast to my got shot in the face anniversary. Um, so what had happened was my girlfriend and I lived in Castleton, Indiana. So we lived in a little apartment up there, and my little sister lived with my mother. My mom and her husband were in Vegas for the weekend or whatever, and I was going to her house to watch my little sister. I had to work the next morning. My girlfriend did not, so we drove separately. And I had ordered a pizza on the way, so I was taking the back road instead of the interstate. So sitting there at a just at a stoplight. So there's two lanes. They both turn left. Okay, so I'm in the right hand lane turning left, and a car pulls up next to me, to my left, and looked like somebody waved at me out of the corner of my eye. When I looked over, there's a guy in a passenger seat, and he's just cussing me out, flipping me off, and just going bonkers. And I was like, okay, dude, whatever, I was like, this guy's drunk, and didn't pay any attention to him at all. I remember at one point his girlfriend, actually, she was driving, so she leaned up and she kind of like gave me this little like, hey, leave it alone type motion. And yeah, he screamed a little bit, and then she actually pulled her car up. So she's kind of out in the lane a little bit, but so we can't really see each other anymore. A few seconds go by, and uh, the car rolls back. So later on through the court process, I find out that he actually pulled the gun out at that point and pointed at her stomach. She was pregnant with his child, so he pointed the gun at his own girlfriend and baby and told her to back the car up. So she backed up a little bit, and as the car came back, he pulled the gun up and he goes, "Are you afraid of this?" I was like, "Yep, sure enough, I am afraid of guns aimed at my head." Yeah. So I didn't even have time. I was just going to floor it and just kind of duck down and run the red light and continue straight. Uh, I didn't even have time to get my foot off the brake. I kind of glanced and then just boom. Felt like my head exploded. But
Yeah.
it was crazy because it knocked me into my passenger seat. Like it knocked me all the way over, but I had my seatbelt on. So like the thing that stops you when you get in a car accident, it broke that. Um, So I'm laying there and there's just this loud, like screaming hum, whatever you want to call it, in my head. So I'm basically deaf. At the time I was blind. I couldn't see anything. And I laid there for, I don't know, maybe a half a second. And then I had the thought of like, man, I can't see, I can't hear. I could literally have bullets whizzing by me. This guy could be walking up on me to finish me off. Like, I don't know. So I just hit the gas. Um, Hit the gas, started laying on my horn, and as I drove a little bit, I kind of popped my head up just so I could see, and I'm blinking, and I'm starting to get little bits of just lights, tail lights, street lights, stuff like that. I drove about a block or two, and ended up kind of rear-ending a car, just barely. Right, I clipped my driver's side, clipped his passenger side rear, and once I hit him, I was like, okay, I've at least got somebody's attention. I don't think this guy's behind me anymore. My vision was uh, better. I could see out of my right eye. And so I stopped the car, I get out, and fortunately, this guy was on a cell phone. He's out of his car, he's on a cell phone. So this is February of 2000. Like, hardly anybody had cell phones back then.
Yeah.
I think I still had a pager, right? like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I got out and I was like, "Hey, call 911. I just got shot." And I kind of walked back, and I'm in shock at this point. But I leaned on the guy's car, and I just remember the mass amounts of blood just pulsating out of my head. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's bad." And also, I hit this guy's car. Now I'm bleeding all over it, so it's kind
Yeah.
of weird. I'm gonna go kneel down in the street here. Um, So yeah, I just kind of kneeled down and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, there's literally nothing I can do. And I remember I started like, my thought was like, man, I'm either going to bleed to death, uh, or this hit me in the brain and I'm going to have brain damage. Like, it's probably one or the other.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I'm sitting there doing math problems and stuff in my head, and then like math problems turn into jujitsu moves. So I'm crouched down in the street going over like jujitsu moves and stuff. And I was like, oh, I feel like I can think pretty well, so I'm probably bleeding to death. Uh, but as I'm crouched down, a sheriff's deputy had actually seen me collide with the other car, and so
Oh,
he's walking up and he's like, hey, I was like, hey, some guy at that light just shot me in the face, and he just goes, hey, give me your ID and give me some phone numbers now. And so I pulled my wallet out. I threw my wallet at him, and I was like, I was trying to remember my dad's number. My dad had actually just moved, and so back then when you moved, you
we had
typically
phone
got a
numbers.
different
Yeah.
number, right? And so uh, I remembered it, and I think I gave my dad's new number. I gave my mom's number to and yeah, so paramedics got there. It was funny. We were just talking about this the other day, with like people getting injured and not wanting their keys and stuff cut off. But I remember I'm laying there. The paramedics get there. They finally make me lay down, and they go to cut my coat off. And I was like,
Hmm.
it was kind of expensive coat. I had like expensive coat, new jeans, my favorite shirt, and they're like, we got to cut your coat. And I was like, no, no, no. And I'm like fighting them. And I was like, get off me.
Yeah.
Like I took my coat off and they're like, sir, stop moving. You have been
Yeah.
shot. I
Yeah.
was like, don't, please, I can take my clothes off. Please don't cut them. They're like, it doesn't work that way. So they end up cutting all my clothes off. And I'm laying there in my tidy whities on the concrete, bridge, freezing to death and literally freezing to death. But yeah, they got me in the ambulance, and I remember at that point I was spent. I'm laying there and I'm like starting to doze off, and I looked up at the paramedic and I was like, "Hey man, I'm tired." And
Mm.
he goes, "You're good, man. We got you." And I was like, "No, like, do I need to stay awake? Because I
Yeah.
can." I was like, "I don't want to fall asleep and not wake up." And he's like, "I understand." He goes, "You're good, man. We've got you." And I was like, "Okay." And then
Wow.
and I was just passed out for a little bit, and I kind of woke up going through the hospital doors when they're slamming them open and stuff. And um, I think the next memory I have is laying in the hospital and they've got like rags on my face. And uh, I remember my dad came in and then my girlfriend, and I was freezing. I'd lost all that blood. I'd been out in the cold for a while, and they're just throwing hot blankets or hot towels on me. And um, I was like, I'm thirsty. I need water. They're like, no water. You can suck this ice cube through a washcloth.
Hmm.
Um, and, uh, and then, yeah, the next thing I remember is I woke up in the NICU. They didn't have room in the ICU. So I was in the kids ward. And, so it was after they had done surgery. And what they had done is they went in and they put like a kind of like a hammock under my eye. So like my left eye doesn't quite track because
Okay.
I'm blind in my left eye still. But they put like a hammock under to kind of hold it in place. And then I've got two like metal plates in my to reconstruct my cheekbone. So they did all that. But I just remember waking up and being like, oh wow, that doesn't hurt nearly as bad as it did.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was trying to play it cool for my family and be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
There's no pain. And now then I was like, oh yeah, no, it hurt real bad, guys. It was
Yeah.
it was miserable, but now it's pretty okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was in the hospital for like 3.5 days, and they just kind of kept me in there to make sure my vitals were good, and then I went home. And Um, so yeah, during all of that, we had already like Eric Sullivan and the guys, they had rented out a spot to open the first Brazilian Jiu Jitsu academy in the central Indiana area. And um, so yeah, it was literally 2 weeks after that the academy opened, and I was laying on the mat with a big eye patch on, drooling a little bit,
Yeah.
face all swollen.
I mean, that's incredible. Like the idea of, number one, thank God you're okay. And, you know, you don't have a lot of long-term damage. But as far as like you're still able to do jujitsu and can coach jujitsu, but to be able to go and get on a mat 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, that's insane to me. Um, did they? I mean, so they caught the guy. You said court, so obviously they caught the guy, and or did they?
Yeah, so they ended up getting him that night, and then later in the year we went to sentencing. So it was, and I want to say it was like 10 months later. It was almost a year later. It was way later in the year, um, but maybe it doesn't matter. It was later in the year.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we went to trial. He got convicted. We went to sentencing. He got sentenced. So he ended up with 54 years, no parole. And then just this past June, so June of 2025, he got out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, 29 years early. So he got half-time for good behavior. And then he got 2 years off of that for doing some courses. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of sucks. Hopefully the guy's rehabilitated. Hopefully, like, but I had actually messaged his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend now, the one that was driving when
Yeah.
he shot me. Um, so I'd actually messaged her on Facebook and just said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but he's out." And she was like, "Yeah." So she's got the inside, right? Like,
Right.
and she was like, "Yep, this, and this, no problem, nothing to worry about." Blah blah blah. He just wants to spend time with his kids and grandkids. And then a few weeks later, one of my black belts, he runs a real nice gym up in Fishers, Indiana, calls me, and I'll save the long story, but basically that guy's granddaughter trains jujitsu at one of my affiliates.
Oh wow.
And they knew they knew the whole story,
Yeah.
right? Um, so that was kind of cool. I was like, well, that's neat, Um, but then on Christmas Day, so Christmas of 2025, like less than 7 months after he gets out of prison, he got drunk and pointed a gun at a guy at a stoplight. Luckily, he did not pull the trigger this time.
You got to be what?
So, yeah. So he is back in jail. What I'm assuming he's going to serve the full term of from when he shot me and has a whole plethora of new charges, right? So he has all
Yeah,
the
he's a
same charges.
felon.
So he's a felon. He had 3 guns on him. He was completely obliterated, drunk, pissed himself when the cops pulled him over. He had like 14 drugs I'd never heard of, tons of cash. So he'd been dealing. He had cremated human remains, which they think was well. I'm thinking
Like a parent or
uh,
something.
his brother and his son both passed after he got out of prison,
Yeah.
and there's some other thoughts on that as well. Um, but yeah, so I'm assuming that they cremated human remains were family, like a
Yeah. I mean, that's
but
I thought you were about to tell me that, maybe he reached out and apologized or had some sort of remorse or something
so
along those lines.
so one of my brown belts and myself, we've started a podcast. It's not out yet, but I was like, man, I think I want to have him on it just to see if he would come on and do it and just literally sit and talk with me.
Mhm.
Um, and just tell his story, kind of talk about like, kind of how his life was and just some of the things that drove him to have those kind of actions, because in court, obviously he's defending himself. He's lying through his teeth and what
Right.
happened. It's just lies, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to lie as much as I can to not get sent to jail. He's done his time. So I was kind of hoping to actually just bring him in, sit him down right here and just go, hey, let's just talk it out. Let's have a conversation about it. And if it's 30 minutes, great. If it's 30 hours, cool.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously he did not rehabilitate. He did not learn anything. And
Jeez.
he is back in prison for almost the exact same thing. Um, so it was actually his ex-girlfriend that she contacted me. She said, hey, Jay's back in prison. Here's what happened. And then the guy that he pointed the gun at actually messaged me and was like, hey, man, I'm the guy that he pointed the gun at this time. And
Right.
because I was told it was a guy and his wife. Well, I guess the guy's wife and 3 kids were in the car behind him watching the whole thing unfold. So, like, I'm super glad nothing beyond that happened, right? Like, I would hate for, I would hate for those kids to have been in the car and get a gun pointed at him, and I would also hate for that family to watch their father get shots right in front of them. You know,
Yeah.
uh, so so fortunately, he was probably too drunk to pull the trigger. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
uh, from the sounds of it.
That's, that's unfortunate. I mean, I've got a lot of opinions about the, you know, prisons and rehabilitation. Um, my biological father spent time in prison when I was a kid, for murder, and he got out after 15 years, and he's he re he rehabilitated, for lack of a better phrase. He's not gone back. He's had a job, and he's you know I don't know. I know him, but I'm not very close with him. Um, he wasn't there when I was growing up. He didn't raise me.
Right.
Um, so you hope that guys will learn a lesson and be able to carve out some sort of a positive life after something like that. And also, make amends and, get right with with people and victims and, and their God. And, and so it's unfortunate to hear that, that guy did not. Um,
Yeah.
so as far as your own recovery, so you had obviously damage to your eye. You're blind in that eye. Some reconstructive um, surgery on your cheekbone. But is that the extent of your physical injury?
Uh, yeah. Overall, I mean, I have some issues with my left ear. So I have like a permanent tube in there, and so
Okay.
I've always got a little bit of hearing loss, not too bad. Um, so like just real bad tinnitus all the time in that ear, pretty
Hmm.
much. Uh, but Yeah, I mean, overall, that's it. There was some damage done to like my neck from, but it kind of started manifesting around 2009. I
Okay.
started competing real heavily, and then I was like, "What? I can't move." And then we found out I had like impact-induced spinal stenosis in C5, 6, 7. So
Wow.
uh, that put me out of doing anything for about 3 years, and then about 2009, 2012, I was worthless. Uh, yeah, kind of got through that overall, and I've been relatively healthy and got,
Equilibrium. Okay.
for the most part. When the ear flares up, it's a little off. Obviously, like, what I notice is like spinning, any kind of spinning, because I only have vision in the one eye, and then my ear's just a little off. Um, so yeah, if anybody ever takes me down in a jujitsu tournament, it's only because I was shot in the head. That's it. Uh, Matter of fact, that's the only reason Robin tapped me or choked me out is because I couldn't see what he was doing. So
Yeah.
so he cheated. Robin is a big cheater. I'm just
Okay.
going to throw that out there.
I'll let him
And
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone else who's ever beaten me, it's just
It's
because of that.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that it's obviously these tournaments are very ableist, and they do well for the two eye-sighted guys. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so it
We,
doesn't
we
work
need
out for
we
me
need
like
a, we
like
need a
this,
special division.
right? um, so you open a gym, and you're going through that recovery. As far as like, I mean, is it any post-traumatic stress, uh, or were you able to kind of just work through it? And some people,
Man,
go through that stuff and they're fine, but
yeah, man. Ultimately, like there was definitely like times where I would just cry, and I never had the like PTSD of the event itself, but definitely there were hard times, kind of looking forward. Obviously there were times I'd feel sorry for myself, like cry about it a little bit, but luckily early on I just said, "Hey, look, this has happened to me. I can't change it, so I have to make the most of it."
yeah,
Uh, anything other than that is detrimental to my physical and mental well being. So we just have to move forward. And like day one, that was my outlook. So um, I guess I don't know if I'm gonna say lucky enough to kind of have that outlook, but I did. I think that helped a lot. Um,
well, that's critical. Um, to have those kinds of outlooks. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I work with and I talk to a lot of other veterans who are going through stuff. I'm very active with the We Defy Foundation, and
Awesome.
and so I'm an athlete mentor and an ambassador and working with a lot of veterans and obviously I'm in veteran groups on social media and those kinds of things and I feel like a lot of veterans who have been through whether it's whatever the trauma was, uh, they get out of the military and they're kind of told over and over again that they're damaged, right? They're broken
Yeah.
and they start buying into it that uh, that they're broken and they're not broken. Um, they've got some damage. They've got some things that they need to figure out how to work on and work through. Um, but uh, I reject the idea that you're ever truly totally broken. Um, and it's a matter of finding the right kind of mindset to kind of step forward. And obviously, you're going to have work to do, especially physical injuries. You might be missing a leg. You might be missing vision out of an eye. But if you have the attitude that, hey, I'm going to work through it, you'd be amazed what you can accomplish. Uh, you starting out with that kind of an attitude to, decide that you're going to march, and not to say you have no setbacks or you never had those moments where you wanted to cry and those things,
Yeah.
but to have that mindset already there, that's an important and powerful thing. Um, so getting onto the mats, how long was it before you could kind of full go roll and train?
Um, so I think it was just I think it was like 3 months I was able to start getting on the mat, start moving. I at first I had a like a 5 pound weight limitation,
Mhm.
and that was because of the damage that had been done to the back of my eye. So they actually had to take my eye and reattach my retina and remove some scar tissue, stuff like that. Like when they first started, they were like, "Hey, we don't know if you'll ever regain vision. We're going to do all these things to like maybe help you heal a little bit, right?" So I had multiple surgeries to my eye, and so I could go out and I could train a little, but I could not get choked. Like they were like, absolutely no choking. There's too much pressure. Your eyeball will explode or
Right.
whatever was
Yeah.
going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. So February to September. In September, I visited my doctor and he was like, hey, you're good. All restrictions are lifted. And I'm like, can I get choked?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember. So Bobby Knight he had just gotten in trouble for like choking one of his
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
basketball players, and he's like Bobby Knight. I was like, harder.
Right.
He's like, what do you do?
Right.
And so he goes, hey, look, if you could do it before, you could do it again. I'm like, okay, cool. Um, well, and initially there was also, the soft tissue damage around here, and they
Yeah.
wanted to let that heal a little bit before I took a bump. So it's about, what is that, 9 months? September, yeah, about 8 months, I guess. I
Okay.
was without getting choked. So yeah, I got released to get choked again on Thursday. I hopped in the car Friday and I drove to Tennessee and I competed on Saturday. Um,
That's crazy. That's incredible. Um, so you were, so you're coaching jujitsu now as a blue belt, purple belt,
yep.
brown belt, black belt.
Yep.
When did you get to a black belt?
I got my black in October of 2007, so a little over 10 years from starting.
Okay, that's awesome. So you've got your kind of got your hands in some other things. You have instructionals. You have you're one of you're a mixed martial arts. Are you on like a state board or what do you do as far as
No, so for a while I was working with the ISCF, the International Sport Combat Federation, like
okay,
sanctioning events, refing events, stuff like that. And I used to ref constantly. Like I've refed over 3,000 matches. Um, I mean, there were weekends where it was every Friday, Saturday. Like I was just traveling everywhere. Um, and that was years and years and years. And then when the Indiana Athletic Commission took over mixed martial arts, they basically came in and said anybody that owns a gym cannot be involved in any capacity. You can't be an announcer, you can't be a timekeeper, you can't ref, you can't do anything because it could potentially be a conflict of interest, right? Like,
Right.
so, and that was years ago. So ever since then, I've not had any kind of role um, in MMA at all. And so I was coaching a lot. I had at one point, I think I had 30, 34, 35 fighters out of my gym. And then, man, it was around like 2012 or so. Everybody just kind of quit. Like all my all my like older guys kind of aged out and kind of moved down to coaching, and then my pro guys were like, I'm sick of this. And then the amateurs kind of followed suit, and so I have pretty much zero fighters now. We focus mostly on jiu-jitsu. We've got kickboxing and judo at the gym, and we've got a few guys that have done some kickboxing matches, and a couple guys that they'll train here and at a couple other gyms, and then do MMA, but
Yeah.
it's very few.
I wonder if the landscape for mixed martial arts is going to change at all, because I do think that um, gym culture has evolved over the last couple of decades. Back 20 years ago, it was much more kind of a survival of the fittest kind of
Yeah,
environment, and um, now I wouldn't say it's softer. I'm not trying to, I'm not one of those people that wants to kind of crap on the generation that comes after me, um, because I don't think that that's fair. But I also think that there's so much more availability of jujitsu for the hobbyist, um,
yeah,
that maybe fewer people are competing. I know that one of the gyms here in Columbus, I had Vitor Oliveira on. He's got Ronin Training Center down in
yep,
Grandview. Great guy, and his gym has a reputation as a fighter's gym.
oh yeah,
But when I asked him a percentage of his students that are fighting, he was like 5%. He said it's really changed where it's not. He has just a lot more hobbyists. Do you think that that's where do you think jujitsu is going, uh, as far as that dynamic?
I think there's a lot to that, right? So like we can look at the other martial arts, taekwondo, karate, all those things where they added all the belts and they do all the testing, and they became like belt factories or
Hmm.
McDojos, if you want to get kind of derogatory. But and some jujitsu gyms have become belt factories. Like
Yeah,
it's y-
undeniable.
yeah, undeniable. Yeah, we all know it, right? And like, um, but also like I just think back in the day, back in the late '90s or mid '90s even or whatever, like if you were doing jiu-jitsu, you were probably involved in like MMA somehow, and it was still very underground. It was kind of this like nobody really knew what it was, like um I even had a lady tell me last night. She said when she came in, she thought she was doing karate.
Hmm.
And then she was like, "Oh, I'm getting thrown around here." Like, um, but she was like, "Yeah, I had no idea what this was." She's like,
Yeah,
"I thought I was walking into a karate school." But I think people understand what it is now. It's definitely it's one of the fastest growing sports in the world, if not the fastest growing, and it's also way more readily available, right? Like earlier on we said there was maybe in Indiana we had 3, 4 purple belts, period, and now there's I mean, I've got 20 something black belts under me. You know what I mean? I've had my black almost 19 years now. So there's jujitsu everywhere.
yeah,
Like I can go 3 miles that way. There's a gym. I can go 3 miles that way. There's a gym. I can go 2 miles that way. There's a gym. There's another gym about 4 miles down, and they're all run by black belts.
yeah,
No varying degrees of skill, obviously, but that's with anything, right? That's not just jujitsu.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's more readily available. It's more understood, and I think some jujitsu gyms are falling into that like the taekwondo formula. You know what I mean? Like level them up quick, charge them for the belts, like
yeah,
just level
yeah,
them up because they're there. They're checking in, and that's not how I do it, but you know,
yeah. Obviously, if you open a jujitsu gym, you're trying to pay the bills. But
Yeah.
and I think that's where, that's how that happens, right? Guys
Hmm.
need to keep it interested. They got to keep their students interested. Um, I think that because there's argument about this exact dynamic in belt factories and those kinds of things, and a lot of times you see the very your competitors, they have opinions about the hobbyist and how should belts work, and um, I almost wish that uh, at least at black belt, and the idea just popped into my brain 2 seconds ago that you could almost white tab other belts. Um, I would love to see more white tab black belts where, if they're not a coach and they're a competitor and they want to wear that brand as a competitor, let's have more white tabs. You see
Yeah.
them occasionally, but most black belts are running around with red tabs on, whether they're
Yep.
really teaching a ton or not. Um, I wonder if, almost separating some criteria there would make sense.
Yeah.
I guess that would require a larger governing body that people would actually pay attention to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, like I remember back in the day, like we did instructor stripes, right? And everybody's
Mhm.
used to them on the black belt, but we did them on all the belts.
Yeah.
Um, Blue, purple, brown. Like you could be an instructor, I've got blue belts that are better teachers than a lot of black belts I've met, just some guys can teach. Now, are they as technically proficient as another black belt? Probably not. But can they run a class? Can they get their message across better? Yeah, sure. Why not? Right? You
Yeah.
don't have to be a black belt to be a good instructor.
Yeah.
I've been teaching since I was a blue belt. My guys have always learned great jujitsu. My guys have always done very well in competition. Um, I don't even know what I was going with that. Oh, we're talking about the stripes, right?
Yeah.
The stripes and stuff. So one thing, like every gym has their own criteria, and like IBJJF has like a time allotment, like you have to meet minimum time requirements. Um, and some gyms just go, oh, yep, you met the minimum requirement. Here you go.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they didn't do anything in that, and that's the minimum. Like that's
Right.
for the guys that are winning worlds and the best guys in the worlds. Like that, like you should probably be 10 times that minimum requirement because you suck.
Right.
But so at my gym, I have basically like, I call it my six pillars. Okay, so we have four main and then two sub pillars. So what I look at is time in. So we do check in. All my guys do check in, and I have a minimum check in, right? Like, so I think white belt is like 50 classes before you're even eligible for your first stripe,
Yeah.
50 classes between. And then blue belt, it's even more classes, right? So you have to make those check ins count. It's not, if I join the gym and I go to one class in 6 months, I haven't been training 6 months,
Right.
And I've got guys that train more in 1 week than some people train in a year. It's just how it is. Um, so I look at how many hours of training do you have in? I look at your level of knowledge. Like when I watch you roll, are you flopping around? Are you actually doing jujitsu? Do you ask the right questions? Like when I see you practicing techniques, are you doing it well? Can you teach what you know? And then how well do you actually roll in class with peers, right? I don't
Right.
expect the 60-year-old guy to be able to roll with a, you know, division 1 20-year-old that's never even done a jiu-jitsu class. So how well do you roll actually with your peers? Can you do jiu-jitsu? And then I do look at competition, right? But competition is kind of my make or break. So if you don't compete, or maybe you just don't compete well, these three things have to be stronger. But if you're a monster competitor, you can probably get away with a little less technique. You might rank up a little quicker, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then the sub pillars are number one, morality, right? Good moral compass. If you're a turd bag, you're probably not going to get along in my gym anyway.
Right.
We're at right around 400 members currently, and everybody in here is so cool. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had that. Like even when it was way fewer, but like man, everybody in my gym is so cool right now. It's great. It's just a wonderful atmosphere. Um, but then continual improvement, right? Not everybody's going to be a champion. Not everybody's going to compete all the time. Not everybody's going to get all the techniques and just be a technical wizard. but are you coming in and training and you're always getting better?
Mhm.
Cool. And then, me myself, like I'm 46. I'm not going to get more physically healthy, right? Like I'm on, I mean, I could work out a little more. My
Sure.
diet's okay, but overall, like we all kind of age out and we hit this peak and then our physical body goes this way. So what am I doing to improve my jujitsu? Am I getting, am I getting more technical? Am I brushing up on fundamentals? Am I making the things I'm good at better? And am I learning more? There's always new jujitsu out. Like uh, my brown belt that we have the podcast with, Ryan, he's literally, man, he's back there. Like he works here. He's here full time. And on break, he is going through instructionals and then he comes to class and he's running through those systems that he's learning, and he's doing that more than anybody. Like that's continual improvement. And
Yeah.
he's a three-stripe brown belt and he's still just like, man, I'm trying to get better all the time. Uh, so I think, as far as like the, the promotion goes, like we need to have like multifaceted, what I call pillars. Like we need to have several different things that you have to meet some kind of requirement in order to level up. And if your gym, it doesn't have to be the same ones my gym has, but if you have quite a few of those things, you kind of have them laid out. Like I think it would actually elevate jujitsu. Um,
Well, and
I
not
was
only
talking,
that, you your pillars are it sounds really equal parts subjective, measurable things, right? We talked about the number of classes and those kinds of things as, some of the criteria. And so that's a do you have it or do you not? And then
right?
you also have your subjective pieces of it. Where I think where we get into problems is if you have one or the other.
Yeah,
If it's purely the subjective, how many classes do you have? That's where you get your belt factories, and maybe the quality isn't there.
yeah,
Where there's other people in the gyms that they're like, I have no idea. We don't do stripes. Maybe someday something will happen, but we'll see. And and it's this big enigma, and they're afraid that they won't ask coach how they can you know improve or get better because they don't want to
right.
be seen as somebody asking about promotion. And
Yeah.
um,
Well, and that's one thing I always tell people. Like we joke about like, hey, don't ask me about your next belt, right? But I've kind of gotten to a habit of we do promotions about every 3 months. It just makes it easy. That way I don't get overwhelmed at some point. I'm like, man, I got to give out 600 stripes today,
yeah,
which has literally happened. Um, but so I do them every 3 months, and I tell people like, hey, if you don't level up today, or you don't, it's usually like a 1 or 2 week process, right? Like you're in class, I have a list, I just go through. I don't like doing a big ceremony where everybody comes in only to get their stripes that night, right? I'm like, if you haven't been here, you're not
right,
getting promoted.
yeah.
So I just do them at the end of class, and I'll run through the whole class real quick, and do it for about a week, like I said, maybe 2 weeks. Um, but I encourage everybody to go, hey, coach, what would you like to see from me? Not
Good.
not not even necessarily like what do I need to do to get my next stripe, but what do you need to see from me? And it's like, oh, easy question. And sometimes I have to go, you know what? I'm not sure. Let me work with you a little bit. Let me watch you roll with some other people. Let me put it in my notes to really focus on you, and
Yeah,
that way I can give you a more specific answer, right? Like I said, we've got hundreds of members right now. I
right,
don't know every single one of them's game exactly to a T. Um, there's some guys that I do that are here 7 days a week and training
right.
every day. So I'm more familiar with them. But uh,
Well, that's good. It sounds like you're doing things right, and obviously you've had time to develop that and see what's going to work for your academy and not work. And it's also good that your students feel like they can ask you, hey, what can I be working on? How can I prepare? Or
yeah.
what am I
Well,
missing?
yeah. And I try to be pretty open. Like, I know some guys get mad, like, oh, you ask too many questions. But like, why do I not want my students to get better?
Right.
And also, why would I not want to create that connection with them? Like, if they have questions, come talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, I've got students that pull me in the office all the time because something personal. It's like, coach, I need to talk about something, and
Yeah.
and that's great. That's awesome if I can help somebody out in their personal life as well, not just jujitsu. Um,
Well, gyms become that tribe where you can you get close with people. You can't help but get close. I mean, because
Yeah.
obviously physically you're in extremely close proximity. Um,
Yeah.
you
And you
know,
develop a lot of trust just through the tapping, right? Like
100%.
my life is literally in your hands if you have me in a choke. And so I have to have a lot of trust in you on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Even I would even go beyond the tap. So, if you're rolling in, if we want to call it full speed, whatever you want to call it, you also have to trust that they're gonna give you a chance to tap. If we're talking about,
Yeah.
things with limbs and, arm bars and heel hooks and those things, like you got to give your training partners an opportunity to tap before you, and you're trusting that they're gonna give you that opportunity
Yeah.
before they just rip your stuff. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so uh, you know, I mentioned to you when I had to reschedule, and I've talked a little bit about, kind of some of the stuff that our family's gone through the last couple of weeks, and um, leading up to my son's transplant. I mean, we were given some very long odds about the odds of him being able to receive a kidney because of his antibody profiles, and and I hit a point where like I was talking about it with some of my jujitsu folks, and I wasn't expecting, I just it kind of caught me by surprise. But one of our coaches called me out in front of the class to, talk about, the fact that we needed to find a donor. And I am usually a pretty happy go lucky guy in the gym. And like I've boy, I was trying to get the words out. I was crying in front of, doctors, lawyers, and Walmart greeters in our
Yeah.
jujitsu class. And but what I can also tell you is that I had at least um 8 to 10, maybe 12 different people not just said, yeah, I'll see if I'm a match, but they actually went through the process, signed up, got tissue samples to see if they could be donors. And um, that's, and that's out of a small handful of total students in the gym, because I train in the morning. And so I'm kind of tight with
Yeah.
that the group to get that many people, that many people out of that little core group of people that I train with regularly. That's insane to me. That people would do that. Um,
Yeah, that's wild. That got me
and
a little bit. I was like, "Oh god."
no, that's the truth. And when I was able to come, as I had to take some time off because when you're in the hospital and with an organ transplant, they have to really seriously suppress an immune system.
Yeah.
So like I didn't go to the gym while I was with him in the hospital. I didn't want to bring any germs or anything into the environment.
Right.
But when I was able to go back, the handshakes and the hugs and how's your son doing, and um, that's something that, number one, I appreciate, and will always remember. Gracie, Ohio, my little tribe there, um, but also it's a reminder that you need to also be able to be that for the other folks. And sometimes other people are going through shit too. It's it ain't just me. And I'm not even the one that had the transplant. It was my son. I'm
Yeah.
a father, and so those things matter. As a parent, but remember that everybody else is going through some stuff, and be willing to be an open ear for your training partners. You can really have a positive impact on your team that way. Um, uh, you know, I could totally derail this whole episode talking about how grateful I am with that.
Yeah.
Um, but
That's great though, like people always say like your jujitsu gym's a family, and I mean it really is. It's not by blood, but
yeah,
like I'm closer to a lot of my jujitsu guys than I am a lot of my family, and I know a lot of these people would do a lot more for me if I were in dire straits than a lot of my family would. So
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of my blood family, right?
That's the truth. And I'm sure your jujitsu folks came and visited you in the hospital when you were going through your stuff. And
Yeah.
at least I did, when I had a bad accident, I was in the hospital, and the first people outside of my direct family were jujitsu guys showing up to
Yeah.
make sure I was okay. So I don't get that from my coworkers. I
Right.
don't get that from people in other walks of my life, and they're great people. It's not to take anything away from my non-jujitsu, friends and circle, but it is different uh, when you have a tribe like that. Um,
Yeah.
so when you have students that are maybe need a little, how do you coach students that are struggling?
Um, Struggling with what?
Uh, yeah.
It
So
depends, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
are they
So
struggling with money? Or are they struggling just with
no,
self confidence? You know?
usually money can be an issue for folks. I mean, it does not grow on trees, but I
Yeah,
would say just you know when you see a student that's just kind of struggling with life, and you see them in there, maybe you can tell and you can tell that they got a lot going on upstairs in their head. Maybe they're distracted, or maybe I've seen people get emotional on the mats, and you may not know why. How do you
yeah.
approach that when that happens?
Uh, Generally, like, it's not often people cry in class, but it does
Sure.
happen. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's one of those things like you just walk up and you just go, "Hey, anything I can help with?" And
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, "No, I'm going through whatever." And then it's real simple. Okay, well, if you need something, let me know.
Yeah.
Um, you, you're fine sitting here. If you want to roll, you can roll. But you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, "Hey, yeah, coach, can we talk? Yeah. Do you want to talk here? Do you want to talk in the office? I'd rather talk in the office. Okay. Can you wait till after this next round and we'll have a little chat, or wait till after class?" Um, I've had I've had students go, "Hey, coach, can I come in about an hour early? I need to talk to you about something." And it's like, yeah. And sometimes you're like, "Oh man, what is it? What happened?" And sometimes they just have something going on at home that they just need to talk to you about, and they don't
Yeah.
have anyone else to listen. Uh, so I think it's easy, and I'm not even like really good with people. Like, I'm
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
not
we
a
started with
I'm
that, right?
yeah. I like I'm kind of a hermit, and uh, but yeah, you just walk up and just go, "Can I help?"
Yeah.
That's simple. It's so simple. Um, and then I brought up the money thing, right? Like, I asked my students to compete, but I do understand that not everybody can afford it, right? So
Yeah.
we've got the Indianapolis Open coming up, and I'm like, guys, I want everyone to compete for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I want the team trophies. Number two, I want you to compete for you because it's going to feel great. Number three, if people don't compete in our Indianapolis-based IBJJF tournament, they're not going to come back, right? So we need people there competing. Um, so it is for you, but it's also for me. It's it's mutually beneficial. But with that comes like, oh, hey, that gi you're wearing, you can't wear that one. Oh, it's my only gi. Okay, so you need a new gi. You need a new gi. You need a new belt. You need, yeah.
Right.
So now I have like this giant overstock of all these because I'm just buying gis just in case somebody needs them. Well, you compete gi, no gi, and you buy a new gi. You're three, four, $500 at that point just for this one tournament. So I always tell my guys, I'm like, do not let money be the only reason. If you
Right.
can't compete for whatever, cool. If your only reason you're not competing is money, come talk to me. Like, if I can pay for it, I'll pay for it. But we sat down and we ran a Mario Kart tournament out of the gym one day, and we had vendors. We set up booths and stuff, and the vendors donated, and we took donations. We had food trucks come out. We ran this big event just to raise money. Literally, it goes in a little account, and
That's a
hey, do you
great
need
idea.
some money? So we literally have um a, a tournament fund, right? A donation
Yeah.
fund. So anybody can just come in and throw some money in it, and now somebody needs a sponsorship for a tournament or a new key or something
Yeah.
for the tournament. They can come say, "Hey, coach, hey, I can pay for the key, but I can't afford both. Can
Right.
I get 150 bucks, whatever it is?" So, and we raised, like I said, we just did a little Mario Kart tournament, and um, we raised thousands of dollars
That's
just for
wild.
people to compete who need to.
So, I mean, that gives like, we talk about jujitsu's certainly not a religion, and we don't ever want to be seen as like, culty, but
Yeah,
um churches do things like that. And I think it's fantastic. That you would have a fund for your membership when they, if they're in need, a legitimate need, to be able to support them, as far as a gi goes. I know that,
Yeah.
um, I've purchased a couple of gis for guys that either somebody stole their gym bag, or not out of our gym, but out of their car. Um, or they misplaced it or whatever. And, maybe they're a young college guy that, they just don't have,
Yep.
money laying around to go spend a couple $100 on and stuff. So if you have an actual fund set up, then that's, I don't know, the wheels are spinning. It's like, yeah, you could do like fundraiser open mats and kind of set up some
Yeah.
coffers that way.
And you could do it multiple times a year,
Yeah.
and can be different things. Super super simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was talking to Robin this morning about, what we want to do for Memorial Day. That we typically are trying to raise money, usually around
Mhm.
Memorial Day and around Veterans Day. So I was talking to him a little bit this morning about, do we want an open mat, or, are we going to try to put a seminar together? Or, and it's his gym. I just, I train there, and I try to support, the Weedify, and be a good teammate. But it is his gym, and it's his academy. And so, me coming to him and be like, yeah, I want to do this seminar and things like that. Um, I never want to lose sight that, I'm talking to the guy that actually owns it. It's not me or mine. Um, but
but real quick, on that, I can tell you as a business owner, man, I'm doing so much that like sometimes stuff like that I don't even think about.
yeah,
And again, I think Robin's a little um, introverted as well, but I could be totally off on that. But you know, I am not good with events. I am
yeah,
not good with event planning. I'm not good with time, like in general. Like I have a really good memory from like when I was a baby.
yeah,
So like time to me, time is like it's just weird, right?
yeah,
Um, like 6 months will go by and I'm like, yeah, that was like 3 days ago, right? And,
yeah.
uh, but it's nice to have people go, hey, what do you think about doing this? Hey, what do you think about doing this?
Okay,
Obviously, if you're not over, don't do it every day, but
sure.
be like, hey, like, what would you think about? Or hey, I was thinking about this. I think something like this could be cool.
Yeah.
And he might be like, yeah, that's amazing. Never would have thought of that. You
Well,
know,
and Robin, Gracie, we have a big academy too. It's been around since '92, and so it's a massive gym. We I actually joke. One of our brown belts, I'm not going to say who it was, but he compared our gym to a mega church. And
yeah,
it's hilarious. Because it's nice and it's new, and we keep it really clean, and it's super inviting, and but it's huge. It's bigger than any jujitsu gym I've ever been in. And so Robin has a lot of things going on all the time, you know,
yeah,
whether it's student issues, instructor, getting instructors lined up, trying to run his own events, and that kind of thing. So that makes sense. Actually, and I remember when I told you I started out in the Japanese jujitsu, I called Gracie, Ohio, because this Gracie, Ohio was already open, but it was on, kind of the northern part of town. I called and left a message to find out about training at Gracie, Ohio, and they never called me back. So I ended
oh,
up in this.
failed.
Yeah, he failed. He failed hard. But eventually, I found my way over to Gracie, Ohio. I actually moved to a couple different cities, Charleston, South Carolina, and then up to Boise, Idaho. But I found myself back in Ohio, and I knew that Japanese jiu-jitsu was not going to be the answer for me. And I don't even know if that's available in the area anymore. But Gracie, Ohio is has become my gym, um, and so yeah, Robin gets busy sometimes, and sometimes he might forget things, and that's okay because he's a good coach and he's running a great school.
Yeah,
So
he's pretty old now too.
he is old. He looks like Papa Smurf. Like,
I have no idea. He's. I don't even know if he's. How old is Robin?
that's a good question. I know he's older than me,
Yeah,
but
I think he's a little bit
Yeah.
older, not too much though, right?
I judge it based on the gray in the beard. So I'm getting grayer every day. But Robin's, when he grows his beard, it is full white. It is a Papa Smurf beard
Yeah,
now. And I'm sure he'd still just choke the daylights out of me if he wanted to.
yeah.
Uh but yeah, I think I'd put him at 50. Um I need to find that out.
He's
Um
gonna be so mad if you're like way off.
well, I know that I'm slightly younger than him, but I don't know that it's
Yeah,
much. And so I
yeah.
turn 46 next month. He might be 50. So uh
Okay,
yeah, and if he is, then I guess I'll just wait longer for a promotion or uh,
right.
um
I mean,
uh
if you wait long enough, eventually you'll just catch up to him. Like at some point,
well,
he's gonna age.
so that's what I look at. So I started still rolling it. It's actually kind of about the aging jujitsu practitioner, and and getting into the conversation about belts, and competitors feeling like maybe that mid 40s hobbyist doesn't deserve whatever belt, but it's you got to be judged against your actual peers and
Yeah,
um your own individual ceiling, I guess.
yeah,
um and so I don't know where I was going with that, other than some of these competitors. I'm looking forward to their Instagram posts when they start handing their belts back in, when the competitive 20-year-old purple belt starts beating them, and they're
yeah.
you know um uh how do you coach the aging athlete that maybe they got to slow down, and how do you talk them through kind of figuring out training schedule, and how much should the guy that's 45 or 50-year old really be training?
Man, I kind of leave it up to them, right? So if they're brand new, I tell them like, hey, start 2 days a week, two
Yeah.
classes a week tops. Do not get burnout. Do not get hurt. Don't roll with the 20-year-old like guy that just started. Also, like if he's got a colored belt, you're probably safe. But
Yeah.
um, overall, just train safe. Right now, I've got one guy, Jake. He's 50 and came in. He's been training about 4 years, I think, maybe five now, but pretty overweight, very out of shape, former military guy.
Hmm.
And like now he's just jacked and he's here 7 days a week. Like literally, well, yeah, 6 to 7 days a week, sometimes multiple classes a day. Like he's just in it and he's always adding new stuff. He pulls me aside every class. He's like, man, I was doing this and I was trying this. And um, but when he came in, he was like, hey, just so you know, I never want to compete. I have no desire. Okay. He got his blue belt. He said, hey, I'm no desire to compete. Okay, no problem. He got his purple belt. No desire to compete ever. And then like just late last year, so like I said, about 4 years in, he was like, hey, I filled out my IBJJF stuff. Will you approve it? I
Okay.
was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, no problem. And I never said anything to him. And then he was like, I registered for Nashville. He's like, I want to do Master Worlds next year. I was like, yes.
Nice.
And he did great. He double golded and he listened. I was like, that was good, man. Like, you actually, he's like, I know that was because there was one point where he was winning.
Yeah.
Um, and they got reset and like the reset was kind of weird. So I told him, I said, hey, look, even if he passes your guard, you are still ahead. Like chill. Just don't let him score anymore. And the guy ended up getting the guard pass and he just kind of locked him down and stalled out. And he was like, that was super hard. He's like, it was hard to stall when I was in a bad position.
Yeah.
Uh, I was like, yeah, but you listened.
Right.
But yeah, so
Yeah, you got
like
to
I say,
be. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's in his 50s and he trains every single day. Um, so a little bit of that it's on the person, right? And to be honest, some of these guys that are 40, man, some of these guys in their mid 30s now are on TRT and stuff like that. So like they can train way more than the 20-year-old. So I think overall it's pretty individual. But you can look at somebody and you can see their physical level, you can see their skill set, and just go, hey man, you're overdoing it,
Yeah.
or hey, you need to push yourself more, right? Um, people want to sit out and then not roll, not do not do the drills. They want to do a social club, and then they're like, "Coach, I'm not getting better." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you spent the last 90 minutes talking, and you did zero jujitsu. Like,
Right.
why do you think you would get better at jujitsu? You got to know your teammates better, but
Yeah.
so you're a black belt in being friendly, yeah, but you're not even a blue belt in jujitsu yet."
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you know, being able to listen to coaching if you're competing is a critical thing. You got to watch the resets too. We had a guy at this Master Worlds in Vegas, the Nogi, that um, blue belt, and he had already won the he won one of the regionals, so he's down in Vegas, and they go on a reset, and this his opponent just absolutely improves his position on the reset. Basically was able to kind of add a dog paw that collapsed his position, and it
Yeah,
was a bummer because he already beat that guy in the previous competition. Um, you said earlier you were talking about IBJJF not coming back if it's not well attended, and that is the truth. We haven't had an IBJJF in Columbus, Ohio for years. We're finally getting one this year.
yeah.
Um,
So that's my other concern, right? Because they were doing Cincinnati,
mhm.
and Cincinnati had a low turnout, which moved it to Indianapolis. Um, and now they're putting one back in Columbus, which Columbus is always kind of had a history of jiu-jitsu tournaments, right? With the
Yeah,
Arnolds, and Helson used to run the tournament out there, and then they did the Naga with the Arnolds. Now it's grappling games, I
it's a
think.
grappling
Uh,
industries.
or yeah, grappling industries. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
So they had a lot of jiu-jitsu out there. So this tournament might do well. Well, if Indy is not attended and Columbus, Ohio is very well attended, then my fear is that we will lose our tournament here in the state.
Yeah. Well, if they're both well
So
attended, maybe they do both.
yeah, yeah, I'm
Um,
telling all my guys, do not do Columbus. Absolutely, don't do it. Boy, boycott it if you can.
well, I know that we're going to be at it. And we're really heavy into, we're a couple weeks out from the Arnold, and so we're,
Yeah,
most of our focus right now is kind of getting guys ready for competition, and
yeah. I think the Arnold's the same weekend as the Indianapolis Open.
visit. Okay,
Yeah, and then we have a grappling,
actually, I
or
did
no, I'm
know that.
sorry, we have a new breed tournament here in Indy the same day as the Columbus Open.
Okay,
I would rather go to the Columbus Open, but I think I've got a bunch of guys I'll
yeah, I didn't know
have to
New
coach
Breed even
there.
came up this far. I always thought of them as more of
They
a like a southern.
so they've tried to run a tournament in Indy a few times, and I think just canceled because they weren't getting
Nobody
enough
signed up.
registration. But they ran one recently, maybe two now, but I think just one. And I went to it, and it was very well run. I was super impressed. But we had a couple guys go, and so I think them coming back. It was actually scheduled for last weekend. It was supposed to be on Valentine's Day,
Okay,
and then they rescheduled to May 2nd. So
very cool. Yeah. Smooth Comp is run by a Swedish company. So like if they have an issue, uh, you're not going to get a hold of
it,
somebody on a weekend.
yeah. So I used to run a Extreme Grappling Open, and we
Okay.
had our own we had our own software developed and stuff. And then for our last one, we actually were going to go to Smooth Comp, and so I spent a lot of time like dealing with that. And
Hmm.
I think we ended up just not even doing it. But
Yeah. Yeah. They had an outage at the last grappling industries here in Columbus. And we were down for like an hour and a half, and
yeah,
they weren't keeping like a hard copy of the brackets or anything. So when it went down, we were just full stop hanging out in this, little sports
yeah, that's
complex.
terrible.
Anyway, um, well, James, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and talking to you.
Same.
You came very highly recommended. I've heard your name a few times, and they're like, you got to get him on there. And the your story and your background related to obviously jujitsu. You're kind of an OG as it were, but also going through the things that you went through, and you've been able to persevere, um, and kind of get right back at it, it says a lot about you. So, I appreciate your time. Do
Yeah,
you
no,
have
I
anything
appreciate your
else you want
time.
to add? Where can people find you? What do you have? Like, what? Tell me about your podcast. When are you going to start releasing that?
So we don't know. We so we started. It's the Fight Hub. So I own the website, the Fight Hub. Um, I do like custom gear for gyms and stuff, and we carry. It's you can buy stuff on there. I actually started. It was started out as like a BJJ Fanatics type thing, where I had just instructional DVDs, and then we turned it to streaming, and then BJJ Fanatics just blew everybody out of the water. So there's a
Okay.
little bit of instructional on there, but yeah, mostly we just sell some stuff, and then I do custom gear. But so our podcast is the Fight Hub podcast. Um, so basically, what we do is we talk. One episode is just kind of about jujitsu training in general, like tips, all that stuff, whatever the subject is, and then the next episode is geared a little more toward the jujitsu business owners. So we talk a lot about like just running a jujitsu gym, everything from branding to marketing to cleaning. You know,
Hmm.
so uh, but but yeah, we started recording. We got quite a few episodes recorded, and now my podcast partner is moving to Florida, so I think it's gonna maybe look a little more like this from here on out. So we're waiting on a few things before we go live. I think we're revamping our logo and uh, got a kick-ass intro. It's really cool.
Okay.
but, so, um, but yeah, it'll be called the Fight Hub podcast. And when it's going to release, I have no clue.
Okay.
Probably this year, maybe.
All right. Well,
Who
I'll
knows?
be looking for it.
But yeah, if anybody's in like Indianapolis area, my school's in Greenwood, which is just a suburb of Indy, so south side of Indy. It's Indiana Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Academy. And then on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, it's just James Klingerman.
Outstanding. All the links for James will be in the show notes. You can find out more about his gym and find his socials. You can find information about the Fight Club and any of his instructionals, and we'll be on the lookout for that podcast. And again, James, I really truly appreciate you taking the time out to come and sit with me for a couple hours. Um,
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you.
and that's been the Still Rolling podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.